What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and I'm so excited to bring you this video for so many different reasons. First and foremost, I think this is such a fun topic. Like, we're gonna look at some awesome cardboard. We're gonna look at the top 10 most expensive cards that have come out in 2023. Now, we gotta take that with a big grain of salt, right? Because some of these cards were just released a couple weeks ago, and some of these cards are only 6 months old. But the reality is this is a great point in the year for us to kind of earmark and be able to look at 6 months from now, how have those cards performed. 6 months after that, we'll look back and see how those cards performed. You know this channel, we're all about data, we're all about trends, we're all about playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers, we're all about adding tools to our tool belt, and I think that this video is going to give us an awesome perspective 6, 12 months from now, and just what cool cardboard, right? There's been some awesome cards that have been released so far in 2023, and if nothing else, I'm just excited to talk about them as well. The other thing that's pretty cool for me is I'm in a hotel room, right? Most of you don't know this, but I travel for my real job. I'm on the road every single week. I usually shoot contents on the weekend, but when PikaPikaPaPa first started off, I was shooting in hotel rooms. I didn't get a chance to shoot content this weekend, so here I am on the road in a hotel room. Feels super OG PikaPikaPaPa to me, so I'm just excited about that. Now, with all of that being said, listen, if you're into the data, if you're into the trends, if you're in having a ton of fun just in the Pokemon collecting and investing space, we are building an amazing group of individuals. If you're into that, we would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below, and if you like what you see, I appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get into this amazing cardboard, right? So the very first one on this list is this Origin Form Dialga, right? Like, it is part of the big four gold cards that came out of Crown Zenith. So this is the lowest price out of the four, right? Because we're starting at number 10. One of the cool things for me is, listen, we're starting a baseline here. So the number 10 on the list of top 10 most expensive cards of 2023, we have a baseline of $39, which is nothing to shake a fist at. So I went back and I looked at some of the big sets that have released in 2022. I looked at Lost Origin, I looked at Brilliant Stars, right? They only have two single cards out of both of those awesome sets that are priced over $39 at this point. Now, does that mean that this card's gonna drop down? Does that mean that all these other Crown Zenith cards that we look at all are in for this big price drop over the next 6-12 months? I don't know, but I thought that was a really cool thing. And when I saw that this was our baseline, I wanted to go out and look at some other more recent sets as well. Some big sets, Lost Origin, Brilliant Stars, we all think are going to be some of the top Sword and Shield sets, and see how those singles cards have performed. Really interesting. Only 2 cards in each of those sets are over the $39 mark. Now, the number 9 card, I just went giddy. Like, I am borderline obsessed with Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes, especially the newer versions, especially Crown Zenith on forward, where we're starting to see some exclusivity. Crown Zenith ones haven't been restocked in quite a while. So when I saw that this Pokemon Center exclusive stamped Miraidon card was in the top 10 list, all the way up at $39, right? I thought that was really, really exciting for me. Like, we know that we have Paldea Evolved Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes. They're sold out, and I certainly think that stamped Pikachu card in there is even better. Now we have Obsidian Flames Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box, right? Again, that is sold out, and that's gonna have a Charmander stamped card in there. Like, if the Miraidon is doing this, imagine what the Pikachu is going to do in time, and imagine what that Charmander is going to do in time. So when I saw this on here, you know how pumped I get about my Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs. I thought this was really cool, and I was fascinated, and I absolutely loved seeing this on the list at number 9. Now, next one we're talking about is the Iono. Now, y'all probably know what the number 1 card is going to be, but we're going to start off with this right here. And the thing I love about this card is how many different people in the Pokemon space it appeals to, right? It has amazing playability. It has amazing art. It's a full art trainer, right? You put all of that together, and this card is absolute fire, right? I will say this. It gives me a little pause simply because a lot of times the number 2 variant doesn't always do well for the same card, right? There's usually one variant, the big one, and we all know the special illustration rare is going to be the big one for this Iono. Usually the big dog does well, and the number 2 one kind of falls off. But if any of them can buck the trend, this is it. The other thing that I wanted to call out too is look at this one. I mean, it dropped, of course, as we expect. It came out and it dropped, but it is kind of flattening out a little bit. Certainly is still on that downward climb, but it is not this absolute drop to the very, very bottom that we've seen in the past. So I think this card is awesome. I think this card is beautiful. I think this card has nothing but upside in the long run. That being said, I certainly am not rushing out to add this to my collection for $38.37. Let lots of packs get ripped and see where it ends up over time. Now, the next one right here, number 3 of the Crown Zenith Big Four, right? Here's another thing I wanted to call about this one, the Palkia. Look at this plateau. Look at where it started to flatten out. Now, we've seen a lot of these cards up into this point. We're going to continue to see them further out in this video where they really do stair step down pretty aggressively. This one stair step down like we're going to see, but it flattened out earlier than a lot of the future cards that we're going to see, which is really, really exciting. And again, as exciting as it is that this is flattened out, I still don't know if this is the time to go out there and buy this card if this is on your hit list, right? I still think we're going to see some Black Friday deals. I think at the end of the year, we're going to see a whole lot of specials on a lot of different items that are going to have Crown Zenith in it. So I think there's plenty of time, but I do think this is a beautiful card, and it's really exciting to me the fact that this has been able to hold at the $44 mark, even though it's coming up on 6 months. Again, we look at some of these older sets, and a lot of the cards, I mean, we look at the big chase cards, right? A couple videos ago, we looked at the Lugia big chase card from Silver Tempest. That's been all the way down ever since it came out. Same thing with the Charizard from Brilliant Stars, right? That big Alt Art V Charizard. It's been downward ever since it came out. In these Crown Zenith sets, we're starting to see them flatten out a little bit, and I don't know if it has anything to do with some of the exclusivity of Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes or what, but it isn't really interesting to see these chase cards from that set kind of buck the trend and flatten out a little bit earlier. Now, getting in number 6, I love this. The Magikarp performed the old Pokemon pop and flop, right? Now, it came out, everybody realized what an absolute beautiful card this was and how cool it was. It popped way, way up, flattened out a little bit, and then it flopped right back down. But what I will call out, and this is way too early to look for any trends, this is just on the list for us to talk about because it is going for $50 right now. But I will say over the last month or so, it has really flattened out at that $50 price point. So it seems to be holding steady. Again, way too early to make any price predictions. This is just on here because at this current point in time, it is the number 6 most expensive card that came out this year. It is an absolute stunner of a card. I'm going to tell you right now, an absolute stunner. I love it. If there is any card on this list besides the number 1 card, I think this card has the opportunity to buck the trend of what we've seen in the past, where no matter what, the cards just continue to come down. I think this has the artwork. I think this has the fanfare. I certainly think that this can hold strong. Maybe not at $50, but I don't think it's going to drop down into the teens anytime soon. Again, another thing to reinforce that is, guess what? Last month, this was number 2 on the TCG player list for the cards that exchanged hands the most. So again, lots and lots of interest in this card. This card is absolutely beautiful, and I love seeing this. At number 6, I'm gonna coin that phrase, the Pokemon pop and flop. Now we're getting to the Miriam card right here, another card that came out absolute on fire. I know this graph here only goes back 3 months, but we know that prior to its release, these cards were selling for like $200, and it absolutely cratered. I think everybody saw the fact that this was going for well over $1,000 in the Japanese version. Everybody got really excited about it. But here in the US, the rarity just isn't there. So we saw the price come down when people were pulling them at a fairly decent rate, pulling them out of those Scarlet and Violet booster boxes, Elite Trainer boxes, etc., etc., etc. I will say this though, I do think that these special illustration rares are going to be like the it cards of this Scarlet and Violet era. So even though I think $51, I think it's got a lot of time to mature, a lot of time to come down, we're going to have years and years to go ahead and get in on this. When you look at the long-term prospects of these cards, I do think that 3, 5, 10 years from now, there's going to be a there. I think there's going to be some value in these cards. I think these cards are really awesome. The artwork is there. This is just such a cool card to begin with, and it has a lot of fanfare, even though it's been out for a couple months, right? It was still number 4 on the TCG player list of cards that exchanged hands the most. So there's still a lot of love for this card. Now it's going to be interesting to look back on this in 6 months and see where it's at. But $51, I don't think is a bad price point for it, right? You can get it graded. If you get a 9 or a 10, you're still going to end up doing okay from a price perspective. So really cool card. Love the interest in this and think it is an awesome, awesome card coming in at number 5. You guys know this is on my list that I got to buy. Number 4, speaking of cards that I absolutely love, is this Mewtwo. You all know that in the long run, I think this is going to be one of the most expensive cards in Crown Zenith. Obviously, it's already in the top 3. I think it's going to fight for that number 2 spot. I have absolutely no problems putting that out there into the YouTube space because I think that's going to happen. This card has been on and off the TCG player top cards that have exchanged hands the most list really ever since it came out in January. It has been on that downward in the right trajectory. It hasn't flattened out as quickly as the gold cards have, right? When I talk about the Crown Zenith Big 4, you've seen the patterns, you've seen the trends, you've seen that those have flattened out a lot quicker. They're a little rarer. I think there's a little bit of more chase to them. Here's a little more dollars to the ones that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But I do think in the long run, this Mewtwo is going to do really, really well. I think the artwork is there. I think the fact that it's got the Zard on it. I think the fact that it partners with that Charizard card from the Ultra Premium Collection box. I just think there's a lot of things that signal us that this is going to do really well in the long run. And I am fascinated that this is all the way up at number 4 after 6 months. I think this card is going to do really, really well. Next one right here, number 3. Number 2 on the Crown Zenith Big 4 gold list, this Arceus, I feel like the Arceus brand is really strong right now. Like when you hear the word Arceus, when you hear people talking about it, like for me, it thinks of obviously that our Arceus premium figure box. You know, I think of some big dollar cards, and I just think that the brand around Arceus right now is really, really good. And I think that's why we're seeing this card command such a great price. I mean, it's a super popular Pokemon to begin with. This is absolute amazing artwork. I think out of the 4, this is probably my number 2, my second favorite artwork. Spoiler alert, the Giratina is my number 1 favorite, but I think this card has all kinds of upside. And again, this is another one where we've seen it flatten out faster than we typically see it when new sets come out. I think Crown Zenith is an amazing set. Everybody loves Crown Zenith. It's a ton of fun to rip. 6 months from now, 8 months from now, once we get through the Black Friday deals and everybody's ripped their fingers off, it'll be very interesting to see if these cards can maintain this kind of flat level price point that they're at right now. But if any of them can do it, I think this Arceus can do it. And I also think the Giratina right here can do it. So I think this Giratina right here at $88 is an absolute awesome card. This will probably forever and always be that big chase card in the Crown Zenith set. I don't think my Mewtwo has any chance of catching up to it. It has been on and off that top 10 list for the TCG player, most exchanged cards every single month since it came out. Tons of interest in here. Pretty hefty price point. When we look at the specialty sets, we don't see a lot of cards up there in the $100 range in the specialty sets. So to see these cards that are still holding on to some pretty significant value 6 months after launch, to see their price points flattening out, I think again that just goes to show what an awesome set Crown Zenith was and how it's going to mature over time. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Love this Giratina. Talking about fascinating to watch and cards that I love. Spoiler alert, no surprise, everybody knew that this Iono special illustration rare that just came out was going to be up here. It's only been out a month, hasn't had a whole lot of time for people to rip and for the price correction to come down. I'm under no illusion this isn't going to continue to be a $106 card, but I do think that long run, this is going to be a very, very valuable card. Now, I'm not getting in at 106. I might not even get in at 50. I might not even get in the next 12 or 18 months. I might just sit on the sidelines for a long time, but the thing that I love is I love the artwork here. I think this card is going to be remembered as a big chase card in the Scarlet and Violet era. I think that a lot of people are going to have a lot of fond emotions and a lot of fun feelings for this. And we know that in the Pokemon space, listen, it's not just the name on the card, but it's the artwork and it's the emotions that these cards elicit in you. And I think this card checks all of those boxes. So when I'm thinking 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't know what a price point to get it in yet. We're going to have to wait and give it some more time. But I do think that this card is going to be really, really, really valuable in the long run. Now, I will say this on July 7th, and I'm shooting this on the 11th. On July 7th, 2 of these in PSA 10, each sold for a tick over $1,000. That's a lot of money, right? I think it's a little too early to be dropping $1,000 on PSA 10s. But if anything, that simply solidifies the fact that people love this card. People think in the long run, it is going to be worth a lot of money. Anybody who has $1,000 to drop on a card, I think has some insight into the hobby and obviously must have a whole lot of strong convictions that that's a good investment and that this card is going to do well over time. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not dropping $1,000 on a PSA 10, but if this gets into the $50 range, I will probably be one of the first ones lining up to buy it, kind of like I'm starting to dip a little finger and put some thoughts into the Miriam card if it gets down into the $40 range as well. So with that being said, listen guys, this is our first time we've done a video like this. It was so much fun for me to do, so much fun to look at all this awesome cardboard. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Again, what a great Wednesday video, not super heavy on the data like we always are, but this is going to give us a good point of reference 6 months from now, 12 months from now to come back and look and see how these cards have performed. So if that kind of stuff gets you excited, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you made it this far and you enjoyed the content, I'd appreciate it if you guys hit that big thumbs up button. You guys have an epic one and I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks everybody. Bye.